adelante. Ya tú sabes la manera, la gente quiere Chango, los nenes no esperan. Es el paz que nos hablamos, tune in every weekend for the beat. Este es Chango. Dale pues, mueve las caderas. Dale pues, mueve las caderas. Dale pues, mueve las caderas. Dale pues, dale pues, dale pues. Dale pues, mueve las caderas. Dale pues, mueve las caderas. Dale pues, mueve las caderas. Dale pues, dale pues, dale pues.
Hola y bienvenidos oyentes. My name is Chantilly.
Me llamo Tam.
Y somos
Radio
Chango.
Yay! Late on it, but you know. So, as you guys may have noticed, we are 2 voices short today.
Yes, Naomi and Bree unfortunately could not continue the podcast, but will always be co-hosts in our hearts. But let's give una cálida bienvenida to our new co-host, Talia.
Ciao, Talia.
Hola, gracias a todos. I promise I'll honor y'all's spot. But a little brief intro. My name is Talia Williams. I'm a sophomore sports medicine major, Spanish minor from Los Angeles, California. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. Yes. We're so excited to hear your opinions on this week's topic, which is music throughout the Afro-Latine diaspora.
So, why don't we let los oyentes know de lo que estamos hablando en este episodio?
Okay, so today's episode is sobre de la historia de música. Before we start, who is everyone's músico favorito? Mine is the Cali Uchis.
Sin una duda, Omar Apollo.
Of course.
Easily.
I don't really have a favorite, but I do remember Ozuna, like my Ozuna phase. So
I think we all had lost in that phase.
yeah, that was my man.
Well, our amazing taste has to come from somewhere. So today we're going to be breaking down los orígenes de nuestros géneros favoritos, Reggaeton, Salsa, y Mariachi. And we have some special guests whom we can't wait to put you on if you haven't already heard of them.
But first, who wants to hear about the history of reggaeton?
You know I do.
Me.
Yes.
Definitely do.
We're going to get into it. Reggaeton es uno de los géneros más populares en todo de América Latina y fue creado por afrodescendientes en Panamá. Así damos gracias a los todos panameños. So all of you guys say thank you.
You
say thank you to.
You got to bring up Puerto Rico, girl.
Oh.
Okay, true. You make a good point. Reggaeton made its way to both Panama and Puerto Rico in the 80s and 90s through Jamaican immigrants, but Panama primero. In the 2000s, reggaeton became very mainstream, so everybody knows about Dame más gasolina by Daddy Yankee and Danza Kuduro by Don Omar, but I'm going to let Chantilly say the most popular artists in the game right now because they're definitely mostly Puerto Rican and Colombian.
Gracias, Tamara, for the wonderful dive into my personal favorite genre. And yes, Puerto Rico is definitely in the game for reggaeton hoy en día con músicos de Diego Calderón, Ivy Queen, y Raúl Alejandro.
Yeah, I do have to give you guys your flowers, but you know I'm rep my country bad.
Of course. But now let's get on to another controversial genre, salsa. Though it has been debated between many countries on donde se creó la salsa, it is said that the genre dates back to the early days of Cuba, originally known as son cubano. But it has roots in West Africa because of the slave trade. Salsa takes its influence from African rhythms like its drums and call and response. The music evolved into what we know of it today after thousands of Cubans and Puerto Ricans migrated to the U.S. in the 1920s. But did you guys know where the name comes from?
Let's hear it. Where'd it come from?
Well, the iconic name comes from New York City, my birthplace. According to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, the name was coined in the 60s by Johnny Pacheco, a Dominican band leader, songwriter, and the VP of Fania Records, a.k.a. the Motown of salsa. And I don't know about y'all, but my favorite salsa song has to be La Rebelión by Joe Arroyo, who was actually Afro-Colombiano.
Guys, I actually just heard that song for the first time like 3 weeks ago.
Really?
And
so
what was
good.
your experience?
I liked it because Fun fact, I'm going to Colombia in 2 weeks. So,
Oh,
you know, I have to.
lucky.
I love that for you. But yeah, it actually tells the story. It's about a slave who rebels against his owner because the owner hits his wife. And it was actually interesting to find this out because we play it at parties in my house all the time.
But it's actually deep as fuck.
Yeah, very.
Deep as heck. Deep as heck.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what's big in parties?
What?
Mariachi.
Oh, okay.
Now, this might come to y'all as a surprise, but Mexico took some big inspo from African rhythms as well. So a lot of traditional Mexican music was brought on by the mixture of the country's Spanish, indigenous, and African cultures that evolved during the Spanish period. And at that time, it was known as mestizo folk music. But now, mariachi, for example, is classified as just traditional folk music.
Wow.
So is it just traditional Mexican music that has African influence, or?
Yes and no. Although it could still be considered traditional folk music, a more modern example would be La Bamba. Y'all know that. La Bamba. Yeah. And that was super popular in the 50s, 60s. It's said to have originated from enslaved West Africans who'd been brought over by Spanish colonists, and then they escaped and lived with the local indigenous. But this was influenced by Afro-Mexican and Spanish flamenco rhythms. The song uses the violin, jaranas, guitar, and the harp. But it's best known through Richie Valens's adaptation in 1958 and is one of early rock and roll's best-known songs. I would also like to add in Peso Pluma as a super modern example, but he's starting to branch out of regional Mexican, and he's hitting more the reggaeton, dembow, and pop aspects.
I love the song Bellaqueo with Anita.
Yes. Oh,
It's so good.
Let's talk about
It's
the
so good.
Guys,
the
don't
tea.
start talking about stuff I don't know about. I hate that.
We'll put you on. We'll put you on. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
definitely. This is what this podcast is for.
This
Mm-hmm.
is what this podcast is for, and you know what else this podcast is for? Putting people onto new. Okay. Okay, guys. Now for what we've all been waiting on. We have two very special guests who we're super excited to talk to today. DJ Doobie and Hoodie J.
Welcome.
Welcome to Radio Chango. We have a couple questions for you guys, but first, if you want to give your Howard intros, let the listeners get to know you a little.
I'm Hoodie J, also known as Javon Scurry from Augusta, Georgia. Junior television film major, English minor.
And I'm a Doobie or Alani Hodge, and I'm a junior audio. It's like an audio concentration film major from Stockton, California.
So, as you guys know here, we like to talk about Afro-Latine and Afro-Caribbean artists and music. So, we're here to put you on and just get to know, like, a little bit more about, like, what it is you do. So, first, we're going to start with you, Javon. So, I have a question. What artists do you feel like, you know, your music is most similar to?
There's like a ton of people that I would say my music is like, but to stroke my own ego, I guess I would probably like make it akin to like the internet, the band, the internet, just like that whole, the way they sound, the way they come across. I would say that.
Okay. So do you have like any songs you want to put on? Like,
Oh yeah, a lot of songs. I have 2 albums out, Breaks and Roses and Georgia Avenue. Some of my favorite songs, a song called Ricochet with my good friend Precious Jewel. Song called Solitude that I love a lot, talking about, you know, how sometimes in this world with like so much access to each other, parties, phones, social media, drugs, all that type of stuff, it's still easy to feel alone, and that loneliness is not, it doesn't have to be like ugly and sad. It can still be like, it can sound beautiful. I like that song because it's a beautiful sounding song, but it's about something sad. But those are 2 songs. But listen to all my music, just go. It's all good.
And so, so what would you say would be like the main messages or themes that you are trying to convey through your music?
I'll be honest, there really is no main messages or themes. Me and my friends started rapping because of COVID. I mean, I've always rapped, I always like poetry and stuff, but we started taking it seriously, quote unquote, during COVID, just to like get stuff off our chests, talk about what we experience, what we go through. There's no like message. If there were to be a message, then it's just like, you know, love yourself, trust yourself, create whatever you want to create. But it's just me talking, me yapping, as I say.
That's amazing. So in what ways do you think that being at Howard has kind of helped you pursue this career?
It's just helped because I'm around a lot more people than I am back home. I was saying, like, I don't tell everybody, oh, I make music and stuff, but like when I meet people that I'm attracted to, just like as a human being, I slip it in there to see if they'll like it. So just having the opportunity to be around more people that may like my music, it's helped a lot.
Okay, and you mentioned you're Panamanian.
I am. Yeah,
You like me.
Nice.
So what is your like history with your cultural background? Like what aspects of that influence you?
Well, to break it, I'm not full-fledged Panamanian. I don't know a lick of Spanish, but my grandfather, he was in the military. He's from middle of Georgia, Macon, Georgia. He got stationed around all over the place. He ended up going to Panama. He met my grandmother. He got her to America, and then following from her, all of her family came with her to America. So that's like my connection to that. But my grandmother coming to America and speaking Spanish, especially in the South, is like they don't know what you're talking about. So she's like very adamant about like learning English and like kind of not leaving her past behind, but she didn't feel the need to teach the next generation Spanish because she had to go through the trials and tribulations that she did. But yeah, so that's about really it. My grandmother takes us back to Panama every other summer, so I've been to Panama a lot. I know the culture, I know the people, I know my family that's still there. I'm just not, I don't speak Spanish, but I love it. It's a great thing, like being able to see that part of the world and knowing that a part of me exists there. It's just like, it's empowering. Yeah.
Do you like the music there, like reggae? Like
oh yeah, all that. Like yeah, I love the whole thing, like the whole culture. Like my plan is like eventually to like live in Panama for a couple of years because it's just it's a nice vibe. Like I feel like I'm supposed to be there.
Like it's home.
It's home. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm gonna ask you a few questions, Doobie. So first of all, what kind of music like do you include in your DJ that comes from other cultures?
So I like to bounce around a lot with my DJing, especially if it's a gig that allows me to, but I do play a lot of like dembow and ballet funk when I get the chance. And then obviously like a lot of Amapiano, Afro beats, and like I love Caribbean music, dancehall and soca, like, but right now like ballet funk has been like what I've been really, really having a personal interest in. Like I seek it out on SoundCloud a lot just to listen to or play around with. But ballet funk is what I've been like kind of hyper fixating the most on, and is like what I've been finding a lot of personal interest in musically, which that music has been coming out of Brazil mostly. So yeah, those are just kind of a list of international genres I really like.
Okay, can you put us on to any songs you're currently listening to?
Songs. Okay, I think I'd be better off like giving you like artists that produce ballet funk, because a lot of the stuff that I listen to is also like remixes of like popular music, or like they'll use beats from popular music and play with that. But I love this group called Love Six. They make a lot of really cool edits and stuff like that.
Cool. And can you share a bit into your journey about getting into DJing and how you're able to discover so many different genres?
Yeah, so it's kind of a long story because I used to like want to be a lawyer, and that's what originally I was coming to Howard for. But then like George Floyd and everything happened, and a lot of like my white friends that I was in debate clubs with were saying some things or thinking they could debate with me about things that I found unacceptable. And it made me realize like, oh, the corporate and legal world might not be for me. It was like a whole soul searching thing, but I realized that music was something like a bit of an escape. It's somewhere where I don't have to hyperfixate on the fact that I'm black. I don't really have to like the fact that I'm a woman comes up, but it's really not as frequent. Like in nightlife or in like party industry, it really is just about what you can bring to the table. All that other stuff is not really a factor, and I like that escape. And then as far as like other music, what got me into that was Boiler Room. They do a really good job of making sure like their parties do a wide range of music from different cultures, both underground and commercial. And the first person I watched that did like a ballet funk set was, I believe, like Yachty, which is like Jyoty, and it was like pretty cool. So yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. And so, and both of you guys can answer this, but where do you guys see yourself in the future when it comes to music and your career?
Well, like me personally, I want to be a touring DJ, with like, and have like a touring party kind of like Boiler Room. But I would also love to, like, straight out of college, be working for Boiler Room as one of their creative curators and be in charge of my own production in one of their base cities. And then eventually having my own production like Boiler Room that is international. So that's my overall goal.
I'm a big fan of Boiler Room too, so I'm excited to see you guys.
Let's do an artist on artist thing. Like, maybe y'all should collab. I don't know.
I'm definitely.
I don't know.
But I guess I don't really have a plan with music. Like I said earlier, it's not when I first started, at least, like me and my friends coming from Augusta, like it was like, oh, we rap or we die. Like we rap to get out the hood type shit. But then I stopped like thinking like that as I came to college and realized that like focusing your music on like gain or like, you know, basing on like any capitalistic like structure kind of skews it. So like moving forward, I'm just keeping it to like my outlet. So wherever that takes me is cool, but I just want to keep it as something I can always go back to, like regardless of how my life is looking. So
So when you guys, you know, do your thing, do your craft and whatever, I feel like you kind of cater to a specific audience. So like when you're doing Afro-Caribbean mixes or when you're like making your music, who do you feel like that audience is?
I mean, I am trying to, I prefer for like the African and Caribbean students at Howard to come to my parties because in my opinion, like they're just more hip to cooler music and they like get really lit. So it's like that I do be targeting certain crowds, or it's like, I don't know, like I think my favorite crowds to DJ for at Howard are the African, Caribbean, and like the girls and gays crowds. They just like to let loose at parties. So
yeah, I'm not a DJ, but I can agree. Like I've like going to parties like the girls and gays, they look like they have a lot of fun. And then like I've been to a Caribbean party and they like compared to like just like the normal like party scene at Howard, like the Caribbean parties, they go crazy. So yeah. I'm actually not mad at that, but my target audience is just real niggas. Like, I don't know if I can cuss.
We can, right?
I will. Sorry.
Can we ball?
Okay. Sorry. It's just real people, like people who like are willing to sit down and like, I should say introspective people. If you smoke marijuana, that's a plus too. But like just people who are cool, down to earth, down to like think about something or listen to me, yeah. But not like a specific demographic. I love black people, so like at the core of it too. Like so, like black people are always there. But like if other cultures want to pull up, it's cool. But yeah,
for sure. And so, you know, it's Radio Chango, so you know we have to, you know, tap into our Afro-Latine listeners. So would you guys ever consider, you know, like doing more stuff with that community? You know, like we're big here, but we don't get a lot of
Recognition
at all. Like, so what do you guys, how do you feel about that?
for me personally, since I was raised like not really identifying with my Panamanian side, like I knew it was there and I visited Panama a lot, but coming up I wasn't like going around saying, oh, I'm Panamanian. It was like I'm African American, I'm black. So I would love to do it, but I don't want to like culturally appropriate the space. You
But
know
that's
what I'm
your
saying?
culture.
It is
your
true, but
culture,
I
yeah.
wanted to be like true. Like I had to like do
authentic?
more.
More
Yeah, authentic.
genuine.
Yeah, I don't
Mhm.
want to just say, oh, I'm Panamanian, so I can hop on this Afro Latina beat or like this Afro beat or whatever. I still want to keep it like true to who I am, like whatever I create. But I am down to do more research into like the actual music scene, like the reggae music scene, like in Panama and stuff like that. So like I can incorporate it into my music, like samples and stuff. But I wouldn't just go straight like head first for like Afro beat type of vibe. I feel like it'd be disingenuous.
Me personally, and like this is coming from a place of like ignorance. I actually didn't know the community here was as big as it is, and I thought that was pretty cool because I recently had somebody reach out to me, and like with an idea. So me and my group, the collective, we're actually like planning a party soon that is focused around like dembow and like ballet funk and just like Afro Latina music, because it is some of my favorite music to like DJ, and I just didn't know that there was like a crowd for it out here. So
It's a big crowd.
I mean,
Yeah, it
nobody
is.
party too.
Crowd.
We run deep.
Yeah.
And so, what artists are you guys interested in like potentially collaborating with? So it could be Afro Latino or Black, just anybody that you're interested in.
I gotta make a shout out to my boys in Augusta, Georgia. The people I started this with are the people I'm looking forward to going forward with. So, my best friend Dylan Smith, he goes by the Blacksmith. He's a great rapper, great producer. He produces his own music, all that stuff. I'm looking to work with him. The whole Cosmic Collective in my city, those are the guys. We make tapes together already. We already have a whole bunch of music, but just continue to build those bonds like of all my friends back home and really pushing the Augusta sound, because not really looking to go outside of that. People have to know what Augusta is about before I can like branch out.
So in the future, would you guys come back on the podcast?
yeah, that would be
So,
cool.
yeah, definitely.
And would you also like to let our listeners, los oyentes, know where they can find your information?
A good place to find me is Who's Doobie on Instagram, and like my SoundCloud and everything is linked on there. I don't think we're allowed to cuss, so I can't really tell y'all my SoundCloud name, but it's linked on my Instagram.
Same, like I'm the same thing on everything. So it's hoodie.jhoodie.jayy. You can look that up on IG. All my links are in my IG. You can look it up on Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, all that. Be on the lookout. Got a new tape coming in a couple months. So
All right, before you go, I want you guys to say something in Spanish. Oh, you know what? I'm going to say gracias por viniendo, which means thank you for coming.
Escuchar a Radio Chango.
todos los días.
I actually really enjoyed the interview. I felt like it was interesting because it was with two people who, may not have been super tapped into the culture, but it's interesting because that doesn't necessarily take away the Afro-Latinidad. Like, that doesn't take away their identity. And you know what? Like, I just feel like it's interesting to expose more people and get more people, like, into, like, really embracing something that...
Yeah, definitely. I would say when Javon or Hoodie J was talking about not feeling like he was going to culturally appropriate, I kind of connected that in certain ways with this podcast, because I didn't grow up speaking Spanish. So but I did listen to the music. I was around the culture, and he was too. So I feel like that's a common feeling with being Afro-Latino, especially like being from the States. So I just think that was really interesting to hear.
Yeah.
I hope he does incorporate Panamanian influences into his music. Like he was saying that, like, oh, he doesn't want to appropriate, but like he said, like, he grew up going to Panama every other summer with his grandmother. So I feel like, and he says he's familiar with the culture. So plus, not to mention, that is him. Like, whether he grew up speaking Spanish or not, like, that, is still part of him. His grandma, that's the history. So
Yeah, I agree. But it was honestly just great being able to put on these Howard artists to our listeners. I think that this is what this podcast is all about, and what being a Howard is all about is just uplifting each other in our culture.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, for sure. And, you know, I'm really glad. I want to have more interviews going forward. So, listeners, let us know what you think, of course. And if you guys want to share any of your favorite artists, you'll definitely get the chance to soon.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep an eye out for Radio Chango on the yard if you're hoping to put someone on.
Period.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Gracias.